Welcome to the Leverage Business Podcast, where we believe business success is about working smarter, not harder, leveraging your time and expertise in ways that fit the digital age you and your clients live in today. I'm your host, Jay Allison, author of Leverage Consulting in the Digital Age and founder of the iSuccess Business Academy. And every week I'll be sharing insights into how you can apply the power of leverage to grow your consulting, coaching, or other expert services business and create true freedom and independent success with mindset, marketing, and money model breakthroughs. Because when you get leveraged, the sky's the limit. Let's go for it. Hi again, it's good to have you back. We are continuing the interview that I started with Sarah Cooke last week, and I'm really excited to keep diving into all things to do with the leverage strategies that she uses to have a healthy business. So we talked last week a lot about equilibrium and finding that balance between time, money, and lifestyle. And a lot of that was to do with managing your energy. So not just self-care, but self-management. And we talked a lot about being a mum and having to juggle all of the different aspects of being in business and being busy and growing and being successful. And I really wanted to find out a little bit more about Sarah's own leverage strategy in terms of what that actually looks like in practice in her business, and the kind of things that she's helping other people with. Because it's very clear that our biggest form of wealth is our health. And if we can have our health, then that enables us to make lots of choices. And that's really the message that Sarah shared with us in part one of this interview. So we'll continue on, and here's Sarah again. And I asked her, what would you say your best leveraged strategy is? What kind of business enables all of this the most out of all of the different business models? Because you found one that fits for you, but working with clients as well, what would you say is the thing that most people find a useful strategy to leverage their time?
Oh, what a great question. For me, do you know, it actually goes back in some ways to what we were talking about with really understanding how you want to run your business, because there are so many different business models. There are so many different ways that you can run your business. And it always comes back to, how do you want to run your business? What do you want out of your life? What financial goals do you want to achieve? There are obviously certain things that will bring in more money. So if your main goal is the financial side of things, then that has to come, higher up on the priority list. So that would be things that you can charge a lot more for. So it's more of the bespoke one-to-one type activities, services that you're putting out there, or even products. On the flip side, if you are at capacity with your one-to-one, but you're still feeling like you're trading time for money, you can't see anybody else, then we need to find other ways of bringing that money in. And that could be from, that's all about the one-to-many side of things. And there are so many different ways that you can do this. And depending on your niche, depending on the industry that you're working in, but also looking at, actually, what does your customer need? What does your audience need? That's where so many of the clues lie, is that it's that mix of what you want, but also what that opportunity is there for. We can have the best of ideas, but actually if the audience don't want it, they're not going to buy it, and therefore you're not going to make any money from it. So I think there's that mix of really understanding and getting clear on what you want, but also getting really clear on what your clients need. And if you're finding that your existing audience aren't open to those ideas, potentially it's looking at a different audience. And that doesn't mean that you have to stop working with your existing audience. But if there is something that you are really passionate about within your business, or that you want to explore that idea, then test it out in different places, because there is more than likely an audience that will be open to whatever it is that you're selling. But yeah, for me, it always comes back to that mix of what you want just as much as what your audience wants.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And I was thinking about the testing it out with your audiences. I remember I was reading something about build the plane as you fly, and it terrified me. The idea is that you've designed the thing, the product, the program, and then you kind of dangle it in front of people and say, or even before you've designed it, it's like, if I were to run something like this, would you be interested? Even that kind of pre-testing, pre-selling. And like you said in your story around retraining for holistic health therapy, that they were like, when are you getting up and running? Because you started to tell people. There's an element there of piloting and testing. There's an element there of pre-selling, and there's an element of just being visible with your message and, what it is you're all about. And people attract and say, well, how can I work with you? People are amazed actually on LinkedIn that I don't actually do an awful lot on LinkedIn, but I'm very clear about, what my niche is there. That's more the consulting side of the business. And I think when you're visible and you're just very clear who you are and what you're about, then people will actually ask you, what's your program? Do you have a program? Do you work one-to-one? They start actually approaching you about it. So it's kind of an interesting one.
It is. And I think just building on that is that don't be afraid to put out who you want to work with. We can't work with everybody. And actually, if we have a message that goes out to everybody, then we end up not attracting anybody to work with us. So it is about finding that niche and finding those people who you enjoy working with that light you up, because that's where you're going to get the enjoyment from your business.
Yeah, and it's back to boundaries, isn't it, actually?
Yeah, it is. It all comes back to that.
You want to be able to fire the clients that you don't want, but it's better if you don't hire them and get them in the first place.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, being very clear. I mean, even, to work with me, you need to have an application form. And I learned that a long, long time ago, actually, from network marketing. Is like pre-qualify people, because you end up with people whose expectations are just wrong for what it is that you do. And they think you've got a magic wand or something. And so I want to work with people that are prepared to do that initial kind of thinking about success, thinking about goals, not just like, tell me which marketing thing to do this week. That tactics come later. You've got to get the strategy right, because otherwise we're supporting you to build a business that you won't actually enjoy. So, I mean, all of this kind of comes around to that, those foundations.
Yeah, the foundations are really key, I think, aren't they? And I would love what you said, that there isn't a magic wand, and there isn't. There's no silver bullet. There's no magic wand. There's nothing.
No cookie cutter.
Exactly. All of those wonderful phrases that we hear bandied about so much. And I think so much of it is almost what we were talking about right at the beginning of, you've got to want it and you've got to want to take action, because otherwise, you do stay in that sort of status quo and you stay static. And that's okay if you want that. But if you do want to change and you do want to have that success and you do want to shift the dial, then it does come down to you taking action. And I think that's the kind of the really big thing on this.
Yeah, and you're going to work at something that you enjoy and that you're passionate about. So, it has to start with you and then your audience and building it out from there. Would you say, I mean, having told us this sort of long journey of discovery that you've been on and exploration of different business models, and obviously your life changed along all of those years as well. Of course, It wasn't, all those years of searching, your life changed and your business needed to change to fit the new life, if you like, the new developments in your life, including kids. But if you had to start from scratch now with a clean slate and you could do anything you want, what would you sort of set up as, I mean, it's slightly related to my initial question, but what would you really go for and why? Why would you go for it?
Oh, I love this question because it's a really interesting one, because I think I actually wouldn't change anything, because I've learned so much along that journey. And throughout the last however many years, 20 odd years that I've been, an adult and working and all that other great stuff, I think you have to go through those different journeys. And I wouldn't say that I was searching for things across all of that. A lot of it came to either a pivotal moment where I was forced to change or I was forced to think about something else. But I also think I'm quite self-aware. And I think recognizing when things don't feel aligned or things don't feel quite right, I will look to see how I can change that. I will look to see how I can, shift that. And that, I think, has then led me to these different swerves, as you call them. I love that word rather than the word pivot, which has just been used way too much
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think that's it. And, everything has felt natural at that. We all have crossroads in our lives and there are different things that happen to all of us. But I think you can only base a decision based on what you have in front of you or what you've experienced in the past. And you make those decisions and none of us know what's around the corner. None of us ever will do. But I think it's just being open to that change, leaning into that. And I think that's why I wouldn't change anything that I've gone through. Yes, I've had some amazing ups and I've had some, massive lows, but that's led me to who I am, led me to the experiences that I've had. And I don't think I'd be able to do what I'm doing now and plow all of that knowledge into helping people had I gone straight into not having the corporate world or not setting up different businesses, not playing sport. It's all of that combination has led me to being me, I suppose. And that's, for all of us, that is our superpower. That is what makes us and help people. So yeah, I wouldn't change anything.
I love that. And it's funny because, all of those things make you who you are. And that's what is your story. And we talk a lot about the importance of story in business, part of your visibility. And I desperately want to get a friend of mine, Lisa Bloom, on the show. She's just written her book, Story Advantage. And I'm really struck by, it's not just about visibility, but using story in business, because people engage with story and they learn more by understanding the context of why something's the way it was. And that's part of the story. There's a couple of other things that I'm reminded of. Danny Inney, another friend I work with in his company, Miracy, I coach with them. And he talks a lot about plot twists. And I hear a lot of plot twists in your journey, some of it planned and some of it not planned. But also Jim Rohn, a long time ago, Jim Rohn's like a big network marketing guru, personal development coach. And he said there's two things that happen in life: obstacles and opportunities. And again, I hear both of those throughout your story, and I'm exactly the same. And it's how you respond to those things, both of those.
I was just going to say that, yeah. We can be proactive on a lot of things, but it's also how we react to things as well that I think make a difference.
Yeah. So let's touch on a big plot twist. We've mentioned earlier COVID, and that everything kicked off towards the end of 2019, and 2020 was a hell of a year. What would you say is happening to businesses from your perspective, the businesses that come to you? What kind of shifts are you seeing and what clients bring to you? Because
this plays just into exactly what you're saying about being proactive and being reactive. And I have definitely seen two camps of people: the ones that have kind of seen COVID not necessarily as an opportunity, but actually, okay, this is a situation we've been dealt with. What am I going to do about it? If I want to have that business that is sustainable, if I want to still be running my business, what do I need to do to help that survive? How am I going to bring that money in? Having that open-minded mindset. And then I've seen this other camp of people who have gone, I'm just going to wait until the world opens up again. And they've been saying that right from the start. And we're 18 months in, and we're still going through this. And I think it does all come back to how you respond to things. And, there's a brilliant quote by Charles Darwin, and it's not the strongest of species that survive. It's the ones that evolve. It's the ones that change. It's the ones that are adaptable. Yeah. And that, for me, that whole philosophy is so true through COVID of the businesses that have been successful, is that actually it's the ones that have actively listened to their customers, their clients. They've looked at their business. They've looked at, where the opportunities are. They've plugged the gaps on those threats or those weaknesses. One of the first things that I got my clients to do when all of this kind of kicked off was to do a SWOT analysis, which I know is a bit of a corporate thing, but really looking at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of your business. It's such a simple thing to do, but actually you can identify, again, some really quick wins from that, but also kind of go, okay, we don't know what's around the corner. None of us know what's around the corner, but actually, how could I make some changes to my business or to the way that I'm running it that enables me to keep evolving, keep being successful? And I think that was a really interesting time for me. Again, the people who wanted to come and work with me, that saw the opportunities or recognized that, gosh, I'm really stuck right now. Because of my experience being in the therapy world, I work with a lot of holistic therapists as well as lots of other businesses. But it was the ones that saw in-person clients, more from a therapy side of things, that just went, I'm stuck. Like, how on earth am I going to make money? Because I cannot even see anybody. And that's where my kind of experience came from. And I think, I was forced to change my business model because I became fully booked very quickly. It's exactly the same reason as to why you would want to change your business model, because you can't see anybody. It comes down to that same thing, really. And I think looking for those opportunities, looking at your strengths, what you're interested in, what you get excited about, and how you can build that into your business. I had people that were approaching corporates because everyone was sent home that they couldn't work, but actually employees needed health and wellbeing support. I had clients who were putting on fun workshops because people needed, again, that mental health support. They needed a change from things. I had, all sorts of different things, whether it was setting up memberships, moving businesses from offline to online, creating different digital products, services.
I know so much.
Honestly, when you start exploring those opportunities, I get so excited about this because I just I can see so many different things. And yeah, I think it is really hard when you're stuck and you've got, you just think, oh my goodness, the world is closed around me. If we just take some time to kind of go, and this is where, getting the support from a business mentor or business coach can really help because they're not emotionally attached to it, but also they can see things from a much more kind of holistic approach as well and kind of say, well, okay, let's take it back a bit. What are your strengths? What are your goals? Okay, let's build that strategy. Always goes back to that, doesn't it? With what we've been talking about. And yeah, that's when you can start leveraging all of those different things of kind of going, actually, when I stop to think about it, that opportunity list becomes huge if you're open to trying different things. And yes, we need to, if you're worried about tech, get someone to help with that. If you're worried about how that actually works in reality, ask some conversations, get someone to help with that. There are so many different ways that you can get support and you don't have to do it on your own. I think that's what we sometimes feel like we need to do it all on our own. And there are so many communities. I have my membership, I have a free group where I'm supporting people through all of these things. And it's lovely having those like-minded people that are opportunity seekers that want to help each other and bounce ideas off. That's when the magic happens for me because you can build on these different ideas. And there are so many different things that you can turn into, an income stream that people will pay for, whether it's music lessons online, whether it's subscription boxes, the list is absolutely endless when you open to that. So yeah, things don't always have to be done the same way that you've always done them.
Open-mindedness is a big part of managing risk, your attitude to risk. And it does come back to entrepreneurship. And I know we use the term a lot in business, especially where, say, in LinkedIn, Facebook, social media, you see like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, and it's changed the meaning. Because I think in the olden days, we used to think of entrepreneurs as risk takers, the Richard Bransons, the people doing zany, crazy things. And it isn't. It's that ability to swerve, to use that word again, to see the opportunities and to, have that leap, not just leap of faith, into the unknown, but a well-informed, well-researched swerve, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you always go back to what you enjoy doing, what your strengths are, what you want to do, coupled with what your audience is looking for, then you're always going to be onto a winner with that because it is that combination of those two things that ultimately, as service providers, product providers, we're here to help solve problems and provide a solution for something. So if you can understand what your audience's problems are and what the solutions that you are interested in putting out there, that's where you're going to have those opportunities come from. There is that mix of risk taking, but actually you can do that in a really mitigated way if you've done the foundational piece of you and your audience.
Yeah. And I mean, you have to kind of keep things fresh and moving anyway in business. And I think the world's a pretty changeable place, not just because of COVID.
It's the one constant.
It's also you would get bored doing the same thing. And we want to do fresh things. We want to bring fresh things to market. If you're entrepreneurial minded, I think that's what kind of drives and excites us. And yes, there's an element of risk. It can be managed. I think it's also back to that testing. That's what mitigates the risk is product market fit every single time. Every time you change something substantially, whether you change the subject area, the audience, as you said earlier, or whether you change the modality, you need to go back to just checking that your hypothesis is valid. And the other thing I like about the SWOT, just to go back to that, is, because I'm not sure if everyone is aware of what that is, and in case they're not, the strengths and weaknesses are all about the here and now, right? The present. What have you got to work with? Your assets, your interests, your passion, your expertise, your CV, all of that goes into that. But the opportunities and threats are very much about future gazing, about horizon scanning, about your market research, scenario planning, what's going to give you that successful time, money, lifestyle equilibrium. I'm not going to use the word balance ever again now. And so just having something really simple to brainstorm and doing it with friends, with people that know you as well as people that are business minded, it's just such a great exercise, and it doesn't have to take loads of time or pages of notes. Is that the sort of thing that you do quarterly as well? You said you did a quarterly review.
Yeah, I will always do a bit of a sense check. It's something that I do with my clients whenever we're doing kind of quarterly strategy planning sessions. A SWOT will definitely be part of that. What's happened? Why has it happened? What are the opportunities there? And, yes, it's looking at kind of the external things as well. What trends are happening. I always do a bit of a trend report when I'm working with clients of kind of looking at key trends within the marketplace, what consumers are doing. And that's shifted hugely in COVID as well. Obviously people were at home a lot more, but social media usage changed. People were online so much from work. The way people exercise changed. So there's so many different things that you can look at from your audience perspective. And it's not just about how you initially help them, because it's looking at their full kind of life. Things are changing. We're recording this kind of beginning of October, and people are starting to go back to work, commuting's starting to increase. Seasonal changes play a big part in how people purchase. There's so many different things that impact that. And if we can get an understanding on what that means to our business and to our products and services, putting out a summer holiday or summer clothing just as we're coming into Christmas is never going to get the same sales and results
like the sense
as
check, you said,
putting that. Yeah, exactly. So it's sense checking. Every product and service that you are thinking about putting out, is that relevant for your audience right now? It doesn't mean it's a bad idea, but it's just thinking about when it would be a good idea. So yeah, I think there's lots of things that kind of come into that strategic thinking.
Yeah, very similar. I mean, I noticed you did a retreat lately as well. I mean, presumably that was an in-person one. Like, finally, we can all get together.
Yes.
How did that go?
Oh, it was amazing. And again, that came from a need. It was something that I'd been thinking about doing for quite a long time, actually, and really combining that healthy business. So a mix of working on your business, but a mix of also working on you, taking time out. We had yoga sessions, some mindfulness sessions, some lifestyle coaching. I did it as a collaboration with a lifestyle coach who's also a retreat specialist, Catherine. She's amazing. We'd been talking a lot over the last probably year and a half, just before COVID hit, of how we could bring this idea to life. And what we were realizing is that actually, as the world was starting to open up again, human connection is something that a lot of us have been kind of craving for. But not just any human connection. It's about that like-minded human connection and people that have, there's lots of people that have actually quite enjoyed COVID, that they've not had to see their so-called friends who they've realized aren't necessarily their friends, or haven't had to see family members that they didn't really want to see, that's been protected. So for me, it's about the authentic connection, that real human connection of like-minded people. And what I kept seeing this, and I kept feeling this sort of overwhelm that as the world was opening up, that, okay, I've got this opportunity to do my business. But again, I think we all felt like as the world opened up again, that we needed to get busier. We felt like we'd been closed in for so long. And yes, we had been to a certain extent. It doesn't mean that we weren't stretched. Our boundaries weren't stretched. In fact, for a lot of us, it was much more of a juggle, especially if you had young children at home, you were doing homeschooling, trying to juggle that with working. That actually what I felt women needed was that time for them, that time to rest, that time to re-energize, that time to just reabsorb themselves with themselves, but also with other like-minded people who weren't going to judge, that they had that safe space to really reconnect with their business and really have that time to kind of go, well, what are the opportunities? What does next year look like? But also thinking about, well, how do I want to run my business going forward? Just because you ran it in a certain way pre-COVID doesn't mean that you need to run it in the same way post-COVID. So what are the things that you want to continue doing? What are the things you want to stop doing? What are the things you want to tweak doing? And that's really what the retreat was about, was spending that time for you to work on your business, but also to re-energize, reset yourself as well. It was amazing. It was such a lovely experience I think there were 11 of us. And straight off the back of it, people were saying, well, when's the next one? When are you watching another one? So listening to your audience and really kind of going, okay, let's put something together that combines my passions, my experiences, but actually what the audience needs. So it was a great few days away.
Yeah, so we're really timely as well by the sounds of it,
Yeah.
We're not totally emerging out of COVID for sure, and who knows if we get pulled back in again. I mean, I've got clients that are still in lockdown, and we have a chance to do something differently now. It's not just go back to what we were doing before.
Yeah.
The tagline for the Leverage Business podcast is to earn more, work less, and grow fast. What would you summarize as being the 3 most important things that you've learned to do or not to do in that respect?
I think really, really honing in it and what you want, both from a business perspective, but also from a lifestyle perspective, is really key. I think then setting out some boundaries, how you can use your time, which bits help you to perform at your highest level, and probably that openness to change. If you're wanting to grow and scale, which is who I love working with, then you have to be open to those changes, open to those opportunities, and willing to take action, I think, is the other part as well. Sorry, I've given you 4 there, haven't I?
No, but they're all kind of interrelated. So it's powerful stuff, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've just shifted my tagline. Actually, for me, it's that passion, performance, and profit.
Yeah.
And for you to turn your passions into profits, you have to have that performance. And again, that comes back into that healthy business. That it's about the performance of you, but it's also about the performance of your business. And so, yeah, it's very, very aligned to what you're talking about as well.
We're so in tune. It's kind of spooky. So like somebody coming with a completely different route is sort of really landed in the same space. But I mean, we also talk a lot about the balance, and I use that word now, between doing and being. And I think that's what you've touched on as well. Like with your retreat, part of that is that reevaluation, that reflection is still doing, and it's also just a chance to kick back and lean back out of the business for a bit. And actually that's where a lot of your revelations will come to light.
Yes.
When you quieten the noise and you stop the doing and you realize what it is that actually fills you with joy. I know it sounds really cliche, but for me, I was so busy doing, pushing that I'd lost the plot. I'd lost the you talk about what you want, but I didn't know what I wanted at one point.
Yeah.
It was really hard, a lot of soul searching, which I didn't expect to do in midlife crisis, as they say, and running out of energy to do it. You just got to stop sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. One of the there's 3 questions that I tend to ask people when I first start working with them and really get clear on their goals. And it's what do you want to be more of, what do you want to do more of, and what do you want to feel more of? And all of those 3 things really play into, actually, then you can build a business that works for you. This really made me think of a quote when I was reading Ben Fogle's book, who, for those of you who don't know him, he's a kind of British explorer and done all sorts of things. But in his book, he talks about how so many people are focused on that 2-week holiday every year. But what happens if we shift that into focusing on how can we improve the other 50 weeks of our year? And when I read that was a real kind of shift for me of going, so right, we're so focused on taking that holiday, but actually, especially as business owners, we get to choose how we run our business.
That's the point, right?
But actually, if we can bring in, that's the whole point of it, exactly, that if we can bring in some of that, not necessarily holiday feeling all through the year, but if we can build in more of that enjoyment, more of that energy, more of that fulfillment, then actually that whole 52 weeks of the year becomes much more, soul aligned. It becomes much more uplifting for us, rather than just working so hard that you're burnt out, that you're feeling overwhelmed, to then crash and burn and need that 2 weeks off. And I just think it gives you much more clarity, it gives you more creativity, but also you enjoy it a lot more. You enjoy that journey a lot more. And for me, that's the fun part of running your own business. It should be fun.
Absolutely. It's almost a good point to spend on there. But my punch question I ask all my guests, you may have seen it coming. Maybe it follows from what you've highlighted, but if you had a superpower for creating leverage in your business, Sarah, what would you choose?
Oh, gosh. I mean, we've talked a little bit about superpowers, haven't we? But actually, it is you. And I think it really is that mix of not being afraid, not feeling guilty, not apologizing for really taking that time to think about what it is that you want, and then creating that life, that work, that business that suits you. What works for somebody is not going to work for you. It really is about finding that thing that you're passionate about that you can turn into profits. And through how you do that, through that strategy, it all comes down to you. It always does. So yeah, superpower is all about you, and doing that through sharing your story, through attracting the right people to work with you. But I think if you live in that truth, then yeah, you're going to attract the right people to you. You're going to build a business that works for you. You're going to have much more enjoyment and fun along the way. That actually then does lead to the success that you want to. I mean, it again goes back to that, what is success? Yeah. And for me, it is about that equilibrium of time, money, and lifestyle. So yeah, you are definitely at the heart of all of that.
The finding your truth, that jumps out for me. But also it feels to me that those things that you've just mentioned, if you could put them all in a magic wand, then you would have your sort of superpower, your X-Men power. That would be your thing, is whatever you put into the magic wand to make it happen for yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And then go and take action. Don't be afraid to take that action, because that's a big part.
Lovely segue to the 1 minute hacks that you mentioned last week in our part 1 of this interview. To accelerate your sales, take those small actions every day. The link for that is sarahcookemarketing.com. That's Cook with an E /1 minute hacks. But I'll put that link in the show notes, as I said, as well, so that you can go grab that, connect in with Sarah, and find out more about what Sarah does and how you might work with her. So this was simply genius. I've loved our conversation. I knew I would, and it just feels so in line with what I'm about. I hope people have got loads out of this. There's a lot of practical stuff sort of in the edges there, some templates and things like that. And get back to us if there's anything specific that you want help with. And, thank you for being so open and sharing from the heart and giving us all your story and such pearls of wisdom. It's just been amazing. I've really loved diving into all of this. Is there any parting wisdom? I mean, you've shared so much. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to just finish on in terms of what you leave our listeners with?
It's been a brilliant chat. I've loved chatting to you. I feel like we could carry on, couldn't we? And just keep delving into different things. I think, it would be actually to think about, if you are feeling a bit stuck, or you're struggling with kind of what to do next or where to go, but wanting to have that success, then I would go back to those 3 questions that I shared. What do you want to be more of, do more of, and feel more of? It always starts with you, and then thinking about what you're passionate about, and then thinking about how you can turn that into something that is going to be sellable to scale for your audience. So lots of different things that you can do. We've shared quite a few of those today. But if you are feeling stuck, just reach out to someone, anybody who is like-minded. Don't necessarily reach out to the family and friends who are trying to protect you, keep you safe, keep you from not growing in the ways that they think you might be able to. It all comes from love, but we all have those people who say, oh, I'm not sure about that. So find and seek out those people who are like-minded, that have a similar outlook, who want to grow in the same way you do. Business mentors, business coaches are brilliant for that, because they will help guide you through that. But it doesn't need to be. Just even if it's a Facebook group, finding that like-minded support will make such a big difference, because then you realize that you're not on your own, and it will encourage you to keep going.
Yeah, and it's funny because we talk in a way as if these are people new at business, but actually this reevaluation that you've mentioned before as well, even established businesses, and I work with a lot of very established businesses and multifaceted businesses, and they're having to make a lot of changes in lots of different areas of their business. And it's made them question for themselves as well, I haven't got the energy for this. And actually, many of them have come into more personal growth areas than perhaps they ever have faced before, when they've been busy doing the doing and less of the being and the feeling. Always good to be around like-minded people. That's been an enormous strength for me, just to not feel alone, for sure. Where are the best places that people can go and check you out? Where do you hang out the most? Is that the Facebook group that you mentioned?
Yeah, so I have a Facebook group, which is Healthy Business to Wealthy Business. I'm also, my Facebook page and Instagram are at Sarah Cooke Coaching. So yeah, I'd love to connect. I also have the Healthy Business podcast as well. So come and have a listen.
I haven't even touched on that. I can't believe I mentioned that. I think I skipped over it. I was going to come back to it, and then I haven't, because that's actually how we met, right?
Yes, it was.
We were both building a podcast. So that was pre-COVID, when we started looking into the idea of launching a podcast. So yeah, fantastic place to hang out as well, is to listen to your podcast and get lots more. Thank you so much again for joining us. And it's just been an absolute pleasure, Sarah.
Oh, I've loved chatting to you. Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
You're welcome. Take care. Have a lovely weekend.
Thanks so much. Yeah, and you. I'll see you soon. Thanks, Jay.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Leverage Business Podcast. Want to create leverage in your business? Did this episode provide some insights and ideas to be thinking through? If so, subscribe so you get alerts when the next one's released. If you want to learn more or would like help and support with building a leveraged business that achieves true freedom for you, then head over to jallison.com/podcast to find all the resources and links that go with this show on my website and to join our iSuccess community. And if you're enjoying our content, it would be great if you could pop into Apple Podcasts or the app you listen from and leave me a rating and review. Everyone makes a difference to improving our rankings. So thank you if you've done that already. I appreciate you. So hey, that's it. Thank you for listening. I hope you've loved this episode and have some great takeaways to be thinking through. I wish you a pleasant, productive and profitable week, and I'll see you again next time for another episode of the Leverage Business Podcast.